Enter the anime. 2019. Netflix knew how much global hype there was for anime, so when they announced a documentary called Enter the Anime, fans expected something in-depth, a celebration of the art form, its history, and interviews with the creators who shaped it. But what they got was one of the most shameless marketing stunts Netflix has ever produced. The documentary mostly stitched together random anime clips already on Netflix, sprinkled in cosplayers and J-pop groups, and they called it Enter the Anime. Even worse, the tone often felt like it was mocking anime fans rather than celebrating them. Critics blasted it as vapid and shallow, and anime fans worldwide called it a bait and switch. What could have been an educational, heartfelt look into one of Japan's greatest cultural exports turned into a glorified commercial that nobody asked for. The Last Thing He Wanted, 2020. This movie had everything going for it, at least on paper. A Joan Didion novel adaptation, a loaded cast featuring Anne Hathaway, Ben Affleck, William Dafoe, and Rosie Perez, and a director with indie credibility. But once it dropped, The Last Thing He Wanted quickly went from prestige project to utter disaster. Anne Hathaway plays a journalist pulled into her father's shady arms deal. The premise sounds tense and thrilling, but the film's execution was the exact opposite. The plot was muddled, full of half-baked subplots, and by the end, audiences were more confused than entertained. Even the cast Oscar-winning talent couldn't save it. What should have been a gripping political thriller ended up on nearly every worst Netflix movie list.
So, you do this every day. Same blind sacks, a suit and tie. It's blowing hot air up each other's assholes, and you gotta sit there and take notes. Don't know how you manage, Ellie.
Tall Girl 2. 2022. The first Tall Girl was already a meme. Social media had a field day mocking its premise.
You think your life is hard? I wear a size 13 Nikes. I was born without arms.
So when Netflix greenlit a sequel, I don't even know why they did that, fans weren't expecting much. Unfortunately, Tall Girl 2 didn't rise to the occasion, as expected, and it fell flat on its face. The movie follows Jodie, now basking in newfound popularity, only to drown in teen drama, insecurities, and relationship squabbles. Instead of addressing meaningful themes like self-acceptance or growth, the sequel leaned into cliches, delivering sulking characters, predictable misunderstandings, and wooden acting. What little charm the first film had, its quirky, light-hearted tone, was completely missing. Viewers wanted heartwarming messages. What they got instead was a lifeless, uninspired story that doubled down on everything audiences disliked for the first time around.
Okay, come on, somebody crack! Dude, I had it.
I have nothing to say to him.
The Ridiculous Six, 2015. When Netflix signed Adam Sandler to a multi-film deal, many hoped he'd bring the magic of his early career. But instead, one of the first projects out of that deal was The Ridiculous Six, and it set the tone for years of disappointment. The movie pulled in a stacked cast: Rob Schneider, Luke Wilson, David Spade, Steve Buscemi, Danny Trejo, and Blake Shelton. On the surface, it looked like it might be a fun parody of westerns, but it became one of Netflix's most infamous failures. Critics destroyed it for its crude humor, offensive stereotypes, and paper-thin story. Even Sandler's die-hard fans found it unfunny and lazy. Structurally, the movie felt like a bunch of bad Saturday Night Live sketches stitched together into a western backdrop, with no real narrative flow. Me Time, 2022. Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg, two actors known for their comedic chops, teaming up for a Netflix original should have been a slam dunk, but Me Time turned into a painfully generic buddy comedy. Hart plays a stay-at-home dad who, for the first time in years, gets a weekend to himself. He reconnects with his wild best friend, played by Wahlberg, and chaos ensues. This could have worked, but the problem? We've seen it all before. The movie leaned so heavily on cliches that it felt like a mashup of other better comedies. The jokes often fell flat, the pacing dragged, and even the chemistry between Wahlberg and Hart couldn't spark genuine laughs. Critics called it formulaic and uninspired, and audiences quickly forgot it even existed. For Hart and Wahlberg, who usually bring big laughs and big blockbuster money, this was one of their lowest points, earning dismal ratings across the board.
Wait a minute. What is this?
Hey! Hey, slow down! There's kids that live in this area! Oh my God!
Hubie Halloween, 2020, Adam Sandler returned again, and this time with Hubie Halloween. The idea was simple. Sandler plays Hubie, a kind-hearted oddball who becomes Salem's unlikely hero when spooky events unfold. The movie boasted a huge cast of Sandler regulars, including Kevin James, Steve Buscemi, and Rob Schneider, plus a cameo from the late Ray Liotta. Instead of being a fun holiday comedy, it became another Razzie-nominated mess. The problem is, if you don't find Sandler's funny voices entertaining, the movie is unbearable. Many of the jokes landed bad. The humor felt dated and the plot was stretched thin. It was nominated for 3 Golden Raspberry Awards, including Worst Actor for Sandler himself. It cemented its place as one of Netflix's most ridiculed comedies.
How long have you lived in Salem?
My whole life.
Now, you've brought us many instances of unlawful conduct to our attention over the years.
Somebody put a firecracker in my mail slot. There's a diaper in the middle of Doris Pond. There's a weird station wagon at the senior center. The supermarket selling expired bacon.
The Do-Over, 2016. Teaming up Adam Sandler with David Spade should have at least delivered some laughs, right? Not with The Do-Over. The film follows 2 friends who fake their deaths to start new lives, only to realize their new identities come with even bigger problems. While the premise could have been fun, the execution left both critics and audiences shaking their heads. The humor felt mean-spirited rather than funny. The action was clumsy, and the overall tone was confusing. Was it supposed to be a comedy, an action flick, or both? Spade and Sandler's chemistry is undeniable, but the script wasted their potential. By the time the movie reached its bizarre ending, most viewers had already checked out. It's yet another Sandler Netflix film that earned its reputation as bottom-tier original. The Kissing Booth, 2018. Romantic comedies thrive on charm, chemistry, and clever writing. The Kissing Booth had none of those things. Instead, it leaned hard into every cliche imaginable. Best friend crushes, forbidden romances, contrived love triangles, you name it. Critics slammed it as one of the worst rom-coms of the decade, calling it cheesy, shallow, and awkward. And yet somehow it became a hit with Netflix's teen audience. Its popularity led to 2 sequels, both of which were just as poorly received. For many, the trilogy represents Netflix's tendency to chase clicks over quality. While it may have found a fan base, The Kissing Booth is remembered less as guilty pleasure and more of a symbol of lazy, algorithm-driven filmmaking. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny, 2016. That's a pretty long title. This one was destined to disappoint. The original Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a cinematic masterpiece, Oscar-winning, culturally influential, and beloved worldwide. When Netflix announced the sequel, expectations were sky high. But unfortunately, Sword of Destiny never stood a chance. Michelle Yeoh reprised her role, and while the fight choreography had moments of brilliance, the story itself was flat and uninspired. The magic, depth, and emotion of the original simply weren't there. Critics noted that while the sequel looked fine on the surface, it lacked the soul that made the first film legendary. For fans of the original, it felt less like a continuation and more like a cheap imitation. Game Over, Man, 2018. And lastly, we have Game Over, Man, a raunchy action comedy that tried to mix Die Hard with The Hangover, starring Adam Devine, Anders Holm, and Blake Anderson from Workaholics. The film put the trio into a hostage crisis at a luxury hotel. The setup could have been outrageous and fun, but the execution turned it into one of the worst comedies Netflix has ever released. The humor was shock-driven, relying on gross-out gags and juvenile jokes rather than actual wit. Critics trashed it, audiences largely ignored it, and even fans of the Workaholics crew admitted it wasted their talents. Instead of clever banter, we got lazy writing and unfunny parody of better action comedies.
Just stop. Stop doing it. Please. We're sorry we killed your friend. Seriously. My what? My what? Your friend. My friend? You sound like my dad!
That's 8 minutes. Thank you for watching. Like the video and don't forget to subscribe for more flops.